Blessings, everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking all about spirit altars, ancestor altars, what they are, how you can set one up, and how you can work with them. I'm aware at the time of me making this video that Halloween is just tomorrow, and a lot of people might be watching this and kind of going, well, the season has passed. Well, the truth of the matter is you don't have to wait for Samhain or Halloween or anything like that to set up an altar. So you can do this in April, you can do this in June. And side note, Halloween or Samhain actually marks the beginning of the Samhain season, which runs from October 31st up until December solstice. It's not a one-day thing, and it's certainly not the end of the season. Just something to keep in mind if you were thinking, oh, I do want to do this, or maybe I missed it, or that was my Halloween plan and I didn't get to do it. Well, guess what? You got time, and if you are doing this between October 31st and the December solstice, you are in a good window to do it. However, do it any time of year it calls to you if you really want to, okay? It'll work just fine. Okay, anyway, back to the topic. Spirit altars. Ancestor altars, what are they? I tend to go back and forth between spirit altars and ancestor altars myself, but I'm referring to pretty much the same thing. The reason I like to say spirit altars in my case is because I don't just work with my ancestors. I am a medium, I do communicate with spirits, and I do honor those that have transcended, but not everybody who would go on my altar is a relative of mine, neither by blood or by marriage. So I don't tend to throw the term ancestor around a whole lot. There are some ancestors included, but I also, in my own case, don't include a lot of family members or ancestors on that altar either for reasons, which maybe we'll talk about in another video. What this is a sacred space or a sacred site that you are establishing in your home in order to honor, commune with, make offerings, and work with the souls of loved ones that you wish to maintain an open connection and channel with. So yes, of course, they could be ancestors, they could be family members, friends, or pets even, or those that have made an impact on you in some way that you wish to continue a new kind of relationship with, or a special working kind of spiritual relationship with. It is separate from a working altar. I do want to specify that. So for those of you out there who are spiritual practitioners or are magicians or are witches or anything like that, this is not where you're going to be doing a whole lot of your spell work or your ceremonies or your rituals for other things. This is a dedicated space, which is essentially opening a doorway in your home to welcome select spirits of those that you love and welcome to pass back and forth between the etheric and here to come and visit and work with you. Anything that is on that altar or anything you decide to work with on that altar needs to be connected to that purpose in some way. So this is not, again, a primary working altar or spell space. It's more of an extra thing. Now, for some people, the idea of inviting spirits into their home in this kind of way might seem a bit scary, or you might be a bit nervous about the idea. This is actually a way to control spiritual traffic in your home, as it were. Because when we set up an altar like this or a portal like this, it becomes a door that only works for people, quote, on the list. It's an added layer of protection for two reasons. The first reason is that we have ways that spirits can enter our home that have nothing to do with our magical practice, in and out in all kinds of different ways. However, when we dedicate a special space that will become more likely the most used doorway or portal, that will be under more surveillance by the loved ones that are using that portal. And so if anything were to slip past your spiritual defenses, your protections that you may have around the house, you're going to have an extra bit of help in clearing that, in removing that. I've had situations like that before where, Somebody had, let's just say, left a fragment of themselves in my space. And they were kind of bilocating, astral projecting, pushing their consciousness into my space because they had established a link, they had made contact. And, the spirit of my grandmother basically knocked the bitch through the wall. And she was like, no, this is a violation. You don't belong here. You're not on the list. You're not okay to visit Nico just whenever you please. And boom, you have sort of a bouncer effect, or at least grandma was acting like a bouncer at that time. This is also really good for those of you that are looking to develop your spiritual skills or to gain insight as to how different kinds of paranormal, parapsychological, and psychic phenomena work. These spirits can work as tutors, as well as help you develop your own skills in mediumship or channeling or anything that you're looking to actually grow as a spiritual practitioner. If you want to set up an altar space like this, the first thing you need to do is, decide where you are going to put it. Now, when I am looking over where I might want to set up a sacred site in my home, I tend to follow feng shui. And that is because feng shui has always worked for me when it comes to finding the best energy centers or the spaces in the house where energies for certain desires or certain phenomena may accumulate and go to work. That is what feng shui is all about, right? It's the art of placement. You can do this in one of two ways. You can do it with feng shui keeping the whole house in mind, or feng shui keeping a particular room in mind. And you can use a bagua, which is a map of all of the spaces or areas of a specific room that vibrate to certain intentions or certain experiences. And you can look that up online. So if you are going to, for instance, set up an altar keeping the entire house in mind, I would recommend putting this altar in a space that would traditionally see a lot of traffic anyway. And that is traditional. When I am working with clients who would like to set up something like this, they would like to connect with a loved one who passed away or something like that, I always recommend establishing this altar in the dining room, the kitchen, or the living room. Failing that, if you do have maybe a bonus room or a rumpus room or something like that where people would also gather, that is fantastic. The lower tech, the better. So, that's why I tend to favor maybe the dining room over, say, the living room. Anything where you have a whole lot of electronics or a whole lot of electronic activity going on might want to, it kind of comes down a tier in terms of desirability, which is why the dining room is so great for this. But anywhere where you would have guests stay and gather and commune in the physical is where you would want to have this altar now for the spiritual. Do not put this in a space that is meant to be private, because it will not get a lot of use, it will not work for you, and you are just not going to have as many visitations or any kinds of interventions and things like that working on your behalf. There is a respect for your privacy from your loved ones, and so don't keep this in your bedroom. A lot of implications when it comes to privacy as to why you might not want that there as well, but also don't tuck this away in an attic or in an office or any kind of closed off space where it's just nobody is really there to share in the company. If you do want to use a private room or you want to focus on maybe the map of a particular room, that's perfectly fine. Make sure that you are choosing the corner that focuses on helpful people, ancestors, and spiritual guidance. And so the way to determine that is to first place yourself at the front entrance of the room you are looking at, right? So you are standing at the door and you are looking into the room. The front far right corner of that room is the corner that you want. Once you have chosen your space, it's time to get everything set up. Now, the first thing you want to do, of course, is cleanse and clear. Cleanse and clear the corner, cleanse and clear the whole house while you're at it. You can do this with sage, you can do this with a cleansing or clearing incense such as lavender or mint or frankincense or sandalwood, or you can use salt water, blessing and charging salt water, scattering and asperging that around your space. If you want to use sound, bells, singing bowls, however you want to go about cleansing and clearing make sure that everything is good and purified. Once you have got that all set and good to go, it's time to make a list of everybody that is allowed to work with you through this altar or through this sacred space. One of the things you've got to understand when it comes to spirit communication and spirit contact is that when people know how to communicate their intentions, know how to form their thoughts, think and speak, it is not as dangerous as it is for somebody that is dabbling or being too nonchalant or willy-nilly. When you make a list, a very clear list, as in names of people, animals, and loved ones, all of that good stuff that you are looking to work with here that are no longer here on the physical, you are already establishing a connection with the ones you want to invite and hold this space for. The times where people end up getting into trouble with spirit communication and spirit contact is when they start calling in random stuff. Oh, does anyone want to guide me? Oh, does anyone there? Oh, does anyone have a message? And that's when you tend to see the baddies show up. Don't do that. Make sure that you are very clear who you are going to be allowing this portal to be used by. Write everybody's name down on a sheet of paper. For me, I'd be like Great Grandma May, and then I would say, even pets, I'd be like Rambo and Rosie, and then I would just go down the list of everyone that I honor and would love to be able to hold this space for. Again, you don't have to be related to them by blood or by marriage. They can be pets. They can be anybody that you have that close connection to and that would have a reciprocal understanding and relationship with you. Take your list and put it somewhere on the altar where it will be discreet, where it will be hidden. You could maybe put it under a tablecloth, or you could maybe put it behind or underneath, or tape it underneath the table, however you want it to go. But remember, that is the list of who is allowed to use this. Please do not, I repeat, do not put the names of those that are still here on the physical on this altar, because what you are doing at that point in time is creating a violation of space. Because what this does is this creates a signal and allows for an opening, a channel to be there. If you do this with somebody who is alive and in the physical, you are creating a breach. You are creating a bombardment of invitations that may not be getting asked for. And it is, close to a psychic attack when you do that. So make sure that you are only working with those that want this and would reciprocate your sentiments and are on the non-physical. Because there will be consequences and a lot of backfires if you start throwing in names of people who are alive. Once you have got your list all assembled and taken care of, time to dress up our altar. And if you want to use a tablecloth or you want to use color vibrations in order to help crystallize and make the intent of this work more coherent, I recommend sticking to colors that are, of course, always working towards or vibrating the energy of psychic work, divination, communication with spirits, and so on. So purples, violets, dark blue, navy blue, all beautiful choices. White also works for this purpose if you'd like. Black is something that can work. However, I personally do not find black to be helpful for this purpose because black is also a very grounding color. And we want something that is going to be able to keep the vibrations high and also radiate those vibrations into the space. Whereas black tends to kind of hold things down, which is why it's often used in grounding work or in protection work or in binding work. and that's not the purpose of this altar. So if you're going to use black or you want to use black, use it very, very sparingly. And this also applies to any kind of colors of candles that you may want to dedicate here or leave here for your work if you want to work with candles. If you want to work with crystals, again, anything related to communication, psychic development, higher levels of consciousness and spirit communication and divination, that's the way to go. So amethyst, lapis lazuli, selenite are all fantastic and very easily attained. Sodalite is also a wonderful stone for this. It's a dark blue stone that works very well when it comes to opening channels of communication. And of course, clear quartz is never a bad decision in any kind of crystal work. You can anoint the altar cloth or the altar itself with an oil that vibrates towards divination or psychic development or spirit communication. So you might be anointing with, say, a special divination blend that you have, or if you want to maybe use some kind of blend of maybe nutmeg and lavender and anise in a carrier oil, mugwort, all of that is great. Of course, make sure you're keeping this away from children and pets when you're anointing. And don't forget, of course, to not just use pure essential oils, dilute it in a carrier like olive oil or almond oil or something like that. And if you want to light incense as well, those same scents would be ideal for any kind of divination work or spiritual communication or offerings that you would like to make when you are working on this altar or leaving your prayers. Now it's time to, of course, adorn it with what is connecting us to those we are connecting to. This is where we bring in the photographs or maybe personal effects. If you have anything that used to be owned by somebody on the altar, or if you know maybe that somebody's favorite animal, for instance, was a blue heron, then you may have a statuette or a photograph of a blue heron that represents that person to you. Make sure that you don't oversaturate your table. You don't have to have a personal effect or a photograph of everybody who goes on there. You do have the list for a reason, but it is good to have some of these things as representation so that it holds the intention in a more coherent way. Pictures of grandma, pictures of so-and-so, this person's favorite animal, or this person's pocket watch, this book this person really liked, or maybe there's something that this person really enjoyed as like a scent, a cologne or something. You can buy a bottle of that, leave that on the altar, and give a spritz into the air every time you want to communicate with them. That's perfectly fine. Your limits are really in your creativity at this point. Have fun with it. Just make sure it's respectful and make sure it is something that still allows the space to be clean and not too cluttered and serviceable. Once you have got all of that set up, it's time to dedicate your altar and invite in everybody who is on your list. And so for this purpose, you might want to have two lists in case you can't remember everybody, if there's a lot of folks on there. If you want to make a separate list so you have that on hand, that's fine. And you're going to take that list, or just if you have the names of the people, you already know who they are, you can of course just say it out loud. And you're going to dedicate a candle to the opening of this altar and its work. And you're going to basically cleanse and clear the candle with your smoke or your salt water or whatever. And you're going to take the candle between your hands and you're going to push all of your energy and pray into the candle that this message and that this altar is now here for everybody on that list. You can say, if you have written that list, everybody on this list. That can be the only shorthand you get away with there. You can just say, this message now go out here. I invite you in to commune, to connect. Let us work together. I love you. I cherish you. I honor you. Please watch over my family. Please watch over this house. However you want to put it, but it's an open invitation to those. Say that, this altar is ours, as in ours, yours, and mine. And you basically make it a very simple dedication like that, because a lot of the work is also going to be done on the other side. So this is a very simple spell. And when you're done with making that prayer into that candle, You can strengthen it with maybe lighting the incense, or if you want to maybe leave an offering right away, if you know an offering that would be suitable for maybe a specific person, maybe there is somebody on the list that you had a very special relationship with that you want to come first and help you with, you can leave an offering for them. And then you light the candle or light the incense. You don't have to do a candle, you could do incense instead, and let it be. You can play music that you know would be very attractive to a specific person on that altar to call them in as an offering for them. If you don't know what to offer in terms of maybe like food or anything like that, you can always leave a cup of coffee. Coffee is traditionally a wonderful stand-in offering for any kind of spiritual work. Just make sure you don't leave it there, for too long. Once you've done your work and, a day has passed, get that coffee off the altar. Don't be disrespectful and let food spoil. If you want to leave somebody's favorite food, or maybe something that you remember fondly doing or sharing with a person on that altar, you can do that as well. For example, when it comes to my, great-grandmother, whom I've mentioned already a couple times in this video, I offer peas. I offer either a bowl of peas or pea pods, anything to do with peas. And the reason that I do is because I do have a lot of memories, especially going back to early childhood, 4 years old, 3 years old, where I would be with my grandmother in her backyard, and her backyard was just all vegetable garden. And peas were and are still my favorite vegetable. And I would just mow down that garden with her. And she wouldn't stop me. She would do the same damn thing. And it's gotten to the point where I even eat peas to kind of get myself into the zone if I need help getting into the zone before I go into a spirit communication session, whether it's for work or on my own time. Think about things that create a personal connection or personal resonance. Again, favorite animals, favorite trees, favorite anythings of theirs or things that you share with them also make wonderful offerings or wonderful representations to solidify the connection you have to those you're working with. Once you are done opening and dedicating, you are good. And at this point in time, it's up to you to decide how you want to use this altar. If you would like to leave prayers and burn incense and open for communication, you can do that whenever you wish. You can also, of course, maybe bring certain objects that you are working with. If you are working with spells, or you would like something to be blessed, or you have a special petition or request you would like to make, you can leave that there. You can write letters and write messages to people that are on this altar, sending your love, giving your blessings, or again, offering to work with them or asking them to come into your life. The sky is the limit here as well. It's a beautiful tool for maintaining a connection to the world of the etheric, which, again, don't forget, we are also already a part of. So that is what I've got for this video. I had intended for it to be a little chat, and then it turned out to be nearly half an hour long because I can really go on this subject. We'll come back and talk about this another day. However, I do want to leave the floor open to see what questions come up about this. If anyone has any questions, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, engagement helps this channel grow. And I will be back soon. So thank you so much for dropping by, everyone. You all have a good one, and enjoy making this altar. Blessings upon your altar. Take care.